Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome if you are new. Thank you for taking time out of your day to check the video out. We have more PlayStation news, rumors, and leaks to go over and cover here today. So do me a favor before we dive into these topics. If you end up enjoying the video or finding it informative, be sure to leave it a like. And if you are new here to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button as well. We're starting here with the announcement of the PlayStation Plus Essential Games for July. We're looking at, ironically enough, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. This is the cross-gen bundle. You're also going to be getting Alan Wake Remastered, also for PS5 and PS4. And Endling Extinction is Forever for PS5 and PS4. All three of these games will be available to redeem starting July 4th. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts on the PS Plus Essential lineup for July. Moving on to the next topic, though, we have a new rumor regarding Silent Hill 2 Remake, claiming that the game is 100% bigger than the original. So this is actually coming from insider Dust Golem. He's letting us know that apparently the game is going to be 100% bigger than the original. And he says, quote, "I heard something a couple of weeks back, but I'm waiting to see," end quote, when it comes to getting a release date, as well as what we would assume to be a new trailer revealing the release date. And so the last we heard in terms of rumors regarding Silent Hill 2 Remake, it came from a retailer that had the date September 30th listed as the release, and we haven't really heard anything since then. And so, yeah, I'm hoping that we get to hear something sooner rather than later, and I am still holding out at least a little bit of hope that Konami is planning to release Silent Hill 2 Remake in 2023. That would be awesome, but this is the latest we're hearing, so yeah, hopefully we get that new trailer soon. Moving on from that, we have some really good news for Final Fantasy 16. This is coming from WCCF Tech. They say Final Fantasy 16 reached an important milestone in just a few days since its launch, a milestone that also makes it the fastest selling PlayStation 5 exclusive to date. Today, Square Enix confirmed the latest entry in the series sold a total of 3 million copies worldwide. As reported by Zubitech on Twitter, this makes the game the fastest selling PS5 exclusive to date, as God of War Ragnarok did sell 5.1 million at launch, but it was also released on the PlayStation 4. It's also worth noting that Final Fantasy VII Remake, I believe, sold 3.5 million units in 3 days, and that was on an install base of about 110 million PlayStation 4s. So when we look at Final Fantasy 16, there is a huge difference here where we're looking at anywhere between 38 and 40 million PlayStation 5s as the total install base for Final Fantasy 16. So the fact that they managed to sell 3 million in less than a week is actually really good, and we don't know exactly what Square and their expectations were for this game, but considering they came out here on Twitter, celebrated it, and kind of hyped it up a bit, I think it's safe to say that it's doing pretty well, and it'll be really interesting to see how well it continues to do as more and more PlayStation 5s are sold and that install base continues to inflate. So there you go. Final Fantasy 16 is off to a very, very good start, and I'm happy to see that because I've been playing the game and man, it's a great game, so love to see it. Moving on to the next topic, though, we have an article here from PlayStation Lifestyle, and it says PlayStation CEO Jim Ryan has said that he believes cloud gaming will become meaningful between 2025 and 2035 as part of his deposition in the ongoing Microsoft Activision versus FTC legal battle. Jim Ryan was asked about cloud gaming, in response to which he said that it will eventually become an important way for players to access games. Jim Ryan also revealed during his testimony that Sony is making, quote, significant investments in cloud in anticipation of it becoming a very meaningful way of how gamers access game content, end quote. So what I'm gathering from this is Sony isn't really expecting cloud gaming to really do anything of significance until the PlayStation 6 generation, sometime during the course of that generation, as they say here, between 2025 and 2035. So it's hard to say, right? It's still the very early days, and based off of what I can tell, most people still prefer to play their games natively on hardware, but there's no denying that as we, move forward, cloud gaming is going to be relevant, and it's certainly something Sony's going to have to be heavily involved with when it comes to PlayStation. There's no doubt about that. But moving on to the next topic, and this one's very interesting. I have an article here from Insider Gaming. PlayStation boss Jim Ryan says publishers don't like Xbox Game Pass. The case between Microsoft and the FTC continued on Tuesday, with a video deposition from PlayStation boss Jim Ryan being a focal point. During a meeting with Fidelity investors in February of 2022, Jim Ryan said publishers do not like Xbox Game Pass or the idea of the subscription model. Quote, "I talked to all publishers. They unanimously do not like Game Pass because it's value destructive," end quote. Jim Ryan added that the belief was very commonly held by publishers all across the industry. He also said that he didn't believe Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick would put the Call of Duty franchise on the service if the acquisition didn't go through. That said, Sony worked to help PlayStation compete against the service with exclusive games of its own. Jim Ryan says that PlayStation growing first-party titles is its way to keep Xbox Game Pass at bay. Quote, "One of the reasons why we are investing massively in first-party development and publishing is to provide us with an edge against pressure on a historic business model. Having a business model where you own elements from the top to the bottom increases your ability to be self-determinant," end quote. Now, interestingly enough, we actually get to hear from Bobby Kotick. This is what came out today, and it seems that he is essentially backing up what Jim Ryan said here. This is being reported by Benji Sales over on Twitter. He says Bobby Kotick says he is not in favor of multi-game subscription services. He says that he has seen the impact subscription services have had for the media companies, having a negative financial impact for most of them. And he says he doesn't want to put games into a sub-service or Game Pass. Benji Sales continues, the judge asks Bobby why he would agree to sell Activision to Microsoft if he is opposed to Game Pass/multi-subscription. And he says he has an obligation to honor the wishes of shareholders who want to sell, plus he can agree to disagree with Microsoft. In other words, after selling, it's their problem, not his. So after I came across this information, I have to say it's not surprising at all. Jim Ryan and Bobby Kotick are pointing out what should be obvious to everyone. Video game publishers who are in the business of selling video games at a premium price point and making back the money that they invested into those video games, and hopefully eventually making a profit off of those video games, certainly have every reason to be opposed to the subscription-based model, because the subscription-based model is quite literally the antithesis of that. And so when you see publishers that are part of Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, especially when you're talking about releasing their games day and date, it's always important to keep in mind that they are being paid a good chunk of money to drop their game day and date into that service. We see a pattern form, and that pattern is that any major AAA video game publisher or even indie devs who are very confident in their product, you're not going to see them drop their games into the service day and date. And that's not to say that anybody who is dropping their games day and date into a service is not confident in them. That's simply not the case. Again, they are being paid money up front to do so. And when a publisher is confident that their game is going to sell and make way more money than what they're being offered by either Microsoft or Sony, that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to sell their game. And then once those sales are finished, maybe then they will consider putting these games into some kind of service. So yeah, it's pretty ironic to be hearing Bobby Kotick of Activision straight up saying that he doesn't like the Game Pass model, the subscription-based model, straight up saying that it's going to do financial damage to the industry. And it is quite funny that he basically says, look, I have a job to do, and my job is to sell if that's what the shareholders want me to do, and that'll be Microsoft's problem. And yeah, it just kind of points out, again, the obvious, something I've been trying to say for a long time. I understand that Game Pass is a great value to the consumer, and there's nothing wrong with that. Obviously, we all want a great deal, and we all want to gain access to as many games as we can. But many people have tried to explain to a lot of, I guess you could say, subscription-based enthusiasts out there that this type of model is very likely not sustainable for anybody other than Microsoft because of just how much money they are able to lose in the process of building Game Pass up. If any other company tried to do what Microsoft was doing, it probably wouldn't work. They would go under before it would end up being a success. So yeah, pretty interesting stuff here. You guys let me know what you think of that. But we are moving on to the final topic, and this is where Jim Ryan talks about Starfield exclusivity. This is being reported by WCCF Tech, and it says PlayStation boss Jim Ryan has said that he doesn't see Starfield being an Xbox console exclusive as anti-competitive. That's what the Sony executive said in his recorded video deposition as part of the ongoing FTC/Microsoft trial yesterday. Among other witnesses, Jim Ryan yesterday testified through a video deposition during which he was asked about some Bethesda games being Xbox console exclusives, including the upcoming Starfield and Arcane's recently released Redfall, which we knew was first planned for a PS5 release as well. According to Jim Ryan, he has no issues with exclusive titles as a differentiating factor. Quote, "I don't like it, but I don't view it as anti-competitive," end quote. This is what he said about Starfield being an Xbox console exclusive. Jim Ryan said the same thing about Redfall being an Xbox console exclusive. Again, quote, "I don't like it, but I fundamentally have no quarrel with it," end quote. What Jim Ryan is basically saying is that he doesn't like what Microsoft is doing by making these titles exclusive to Xbox/PC, but his main concern appears to be the potential impact of a game like Call of Duty becoming exclusive. And so, yeah, I figured I would just kind of give you guys this insight in case you were wondering how Jim Ryan feels about games like Starfield and Redfall specifically. You know, I think he kind of shares the same sentiment that pretty much everybody does, where it's like, you know, it's not necessarily the greatest thing because if you're playing on PlayStation, you don't have access to these games, but he, more than anybody else, obviously understands why Microsoft is going to lock down some of these games as exclusives. They're doing it for the same exact reason that Sony is very aggressive about locking down certain games as exclusives. So yeah, Jim Ryan does not see it as anti-competitive. It certainly would have been strange if he said that he believed specifically a game like Starfield going exclusive was anti-competitive. I don't think anybody would have agreed with him on that one. But there you go, guys. That's all I have for you today. I hope you did enjoy it. I hope you found it informative. If you did, be sure to leave the video a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, hit the bell notification icon, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.